comes back to, I want to pick up on money, relationships, and purpose. Conscious of time, but I just
Yeah.
the interest of completeness, because we
Do you
picked
have a
up.
hard stop?
No, do you? Because
I don't
I'm.
have a hard stop.
Oh, brilliant! Well,
I
I'm
never,
loving
I
this.
never.
That is brilliant. Well, I'm loving this, by the way. So I was conscious
No,
that
no,
you
but
could.
here's the thing. The everything that is good for your company comes first of all that it's good for you.
Yeah.
Okay. So their vision comes from your vision. Their energy comes from your energy. Their ambition comes from their ability to focus on what they're great at comes from the example of you focusing on what you're great at.
It's That's so powerful, and that really resonates. Something that I learned as a parent, probably too late to be honest, is the CAM acronym, and CAM stands for communicate, advise, listen, and model, and modeling being the most impactful. I have three teenagers now, and all of the things that they resisted, including training, for example, or going and doing their exercise. I've now two young daughters who have decided themselves that they're running the half marathon this year, and no one ever asked them.
No.
They've watched it, but in the early stages they used to kind of berate the fact that we we were off for a run or
Yeah.
whatever. It was another more exercise. So the modeling as a leader is, I've certainly found, most impactful. What does that do for relationships? If we take one of the freedoms in terms of freedom of relationships, what do you mean by that, Dan?
Well, you're surrounded when you're working with people that you really like working with. The clients and customers are people you really like working with. And you're in your personal life, you're hanging out with people. And the thing is that you will be influenced by the people who are closest to you in your personal life. And I find, I tell them, we have two sets of coaches. We have coaches who do the workshops, and that's to enable the entrepreneurs to do more or less what I've been doing with you in the podcast so far. But then we have another set of coaches, and they're the masters of the program. Okay. And they're the ones who are responsible for renewing people into the next year. So we get about a 75% overall renewal rate every year. We have 2,500 in the program right now worldwide. And probably this year will come in between 900 and somewhere between 900 and 1,000 new people into the program. Okay. So that would be roughly 900 on top of 75% of 2,500. And you just jump and you jump and you jump. But the interesting thing about it, when they run into somebody who's getting a lot out of coach, out of strategic coach, but they say, okay, I'm going to take some time off now. Okay. Nothing bad is happening in their business, and nothing is, there's no business problem. There's opportunities there. The company's growing, but they have to stop because in their personal life, there are people who are getting very, very uncomfortable with their growth.
Tell me.
Getting above himself, and you're in a tougher environment. I have to tell you, there's a very famous motivational speaker going back 40 years. And he says that who you are 10 years from now is a function of the 5 best books that you've read and the 5 best relationships you have. So you think we're influenced very emotionally and face it, entrepreneurism is an odd way to go about life. It's a very odd way to go life. So if you are, people say, Brendan, when's enough enough? When's enough enough? I mean, when are you going to stop this and make us comfortable? And you can't buy them off. I found out you can't buy them off. So this speaker's name is Charlie Tremendous Jones. Okay, so and I don't know if he's still alive, but he was a big deal back in the 80s and 90s. And I said, now, when you hear somebody say they're Charlie Tremendous Jones, what country do you think that they're living in? And they said, oh, he's an American. I said, yeah, because in Canada, he'd be Charlie OK Jones. And in the UK, he'd be Charlie getting above himself Jones.
And this is so, this is so
And I have to
true.
tell you, you live, I don't know what Ireland's like, but I have to tell you, the UK, that if you get a new car, people will take their keys and go right down the side of it.
Yeah, like we hear this, we grew up with this. It's, and
And
especially
you,
growing up,
Belfast, at
grow,
Belfast,
growing up,
there's
growing up.
also, you also walked across the wrong street and you're,
Absolutely, and we hear this. Don't get above your station. Who does he think he is? All of those sayings that we heard growing up, and it was about keeping your head down and that, and working hard. Keep your head down and work hard. So ultimately, when we hear people, especially in the in North America, and they speak so confidently, so bullishly, with vision and with vigor around that vision, and then you start examining their credentials. It at times you go, good, you're saying all of this, but actually when I examine your history, you haven't done the things that you're encouraging others to do. For us, it's about spending like 50 years and getting the stripes, and then we might be able to share it at a dinner party. But
yeah.
what I heard recently, I was listening to an interview between Kapil Gupta and Naval Ravikant, and Kapil Gupta made the point to Naval Ravikant that you should, and I've never heard it put it in this term, you should savagely construct the environment with the people who you want to become.
Yeah.
Can you speak to the importance of the
Yeah.
environment?
Um, I really can't add too much to that. Okay. And, and for example, I'm one of, I still have 5 living siblings. 3 of them are in their 80s and two of them are in their 70s. I'll be 80 next May. And to this day, none of them knows what I do for a living.
Yeah.
And the whole point, but I'm generous. So there's at the great niece and great nephew, I've financed 12 of them through university. And, and they listen to my podcast, they read my books. So it's the generation that's 2 down that I'm really connecting with. But I think this course of the podcast, we've really zeroed in that the biggest obstacle is an emotional one of you've got to replace who the people are in your life that most inspire you. Okay. And if you're surrounded by people who have no further ambition in life, it'll stop your progress.
Here,
And I've read enough about Ireland. I mean, I read a lot of detective stories and, IRA stories and the Provos and, I've got my production manager was born in Belfast, so I got the whole story, and he was Protestant, he was Protestant, and he said, oh yeah, the first thing you learn is where the streets are, and you don't go into that neighborhood and you don't do anything. Well, that's an unusual situation. Most people don't live in that because there isn't physical danger, but there is emotional and psychological danger that people have just by who and they're nice people. I'm not saying anything about nice people. And, people do uniquely in life what comes from their uniqueness, and some people don't bet on themselves and they resent it after a while if you're 100% betting on yourself.
Yeah, and like and it's something I share with our participants in our own program. We hosted in Northern Ireland, and I could put up a slide with the color green, and that will evoke, depending on who's in the room, that will evoke all sorts of
orange
and orange, literally 2 colors.
Yeah.
And depending on which side of the street they grew up in, will disturb them on an emotional level. And what I encourage people to do, and what we're saying here, is that ultimately you've got to create a vision for the future. What we've heard this morning is step into that vision for the future.
Yeah.
Reverse engineer from that vision and really examine, is your existing identity, which is really the culmination of your beliefs, Is it congruent with where you want to go and the leader that you need to be? And it's really that examination at a leadership level of those beliefs that either serve you or don't serve you.
Hmm. Yeah, but then you have to have support from the outside. I mean, who you're hanging out with makes a huge difference.
Completely agree. And this is why, I mean, like you, Dan, and I'm inspired by what you're doing. 2,500 entrepreneurs. You're creating this. The largest community of entrepreneurs globally. It's just incredible. How important is it for those people listening to get themselves? I always think, look, if you want to learn how to swim, or if you want your kid to learn how to play football, what do you Google? You Google the local football clubs, or you already know them, and you take them down to the local football club. If you want to teach them, how to
Hmm.
swim, you take them to the local swim club. What we're saying here, if you want to 10x your business, take them to the club with
Where they
people in that
the
where they're
10X Club.
10xing.
Yeah, and the big thing, it's normal. I mean, the big thing, our brain will not achieve extraordinary goals. Our brain will only achieve normal goals. Okay, and in other words, we are individuals, and I think entrepreneurs are more self-betting individuals than the general population. And even in the entrepreneurial world, we think in coach, out of 400 entrepreneurs, one of them qualifies for a strategic coach. Okay, and that isn't a function of success and talent. That's a function of ambition. Okay, it's a function of ambition. And ambition is that they're seeing themselves always operating at a higher level, producing bigger results with greater enjoyment, greater enjoyment. And the future is simply a picture of ourselves that we use to motivate our present self to grow.
And that, so, I mean, what we're saying here, ultimately, you're going to achieve more by doing less. You're going to capture back time. That time is going to be focused. You're going to earn more as a result of that, the focus of the time that you're now applying to a greater vision. As a result, you're going to attract the right individuals in your life who are going to support you on that, the who's for the how. In order to do that, also, you're going to put yourself into rooms where there are those individuals where what seems abnormal to you in your existing environment becomes very normal. What we haven't spoken about yet is the freedom of purpose. There's a lot of talk around purpose, and it's the second principle of our
Mhm.
10 principle framework: purpose and vision. I believe they're hand in glove. What's your view on, and it's an interesting concept, freedom of purpose? What do you mean by that?
Yeah. Well, it's very interesting. It's actually easier when you get older. So I'm noticing that my ambition at 79 is exponentially bigger than my ambition at 59, and that was certainly more true at 39. So my goal right now, and I plan to live a long time past 100, and
Yeah, I believe
everybody's
156, is it?
650. You got it right. Very few people get it right. They shortchange me. They 152. I says, come on, come on. I can't be discouraged here. And there's a whole story to that that's probably ready for another podcast. But so I have a goal for 100. That's 2044. I was born in May of 1944. So I was born 2 weeks before the Normandy invasion, and you know, there's four truths. Everybody has to be born sometime, somewhere, somehow, you know, and you end up, and you play with the cards you have to win. And so I have a goal that in 2044, we have 10,000 entrepreneurs in the program. So it'd be 4 times. So that's 21 years. We can do 4 times in the next. I mean, there's a lot of complexity, just bringing on one person into the program. There's backstage systems and processes, and there has to be dedicated people in the company that does that. And but what we're getting people into is getting their creativity protected with IP. So copyrights, um, trademarks, and patents. And I will tell you this, that in our industry, a patent in our business, so I take one of my thinking tools. I get a patent on it, and it's worth $1 million in asset value the moment you get the patent. So we'll have, and all my clients, I'm moving them up. I said, you know, you've got paid for your creativity up until now, but you're missing the second reward. And that is you got paid in cash flow, you got paid in turnover. But I said there's a creative value to that asset. So my goal is we'll have 10,000 and the total value of their IP in 2044 will be $15 trillion. And that's slightly more than China is GDP of China, but it'll be with good books, not like their books. So my job is to create the track for these locomotives to run on. You know, my job, and I'm just totally excited, but my life has gotten very simple. One thing, when you get older, your life gets really simple.
Tell me about that.
Well, you can get rid of the soccer, you know, get rid of your football aspirations now.
You mean I can't play for Man United, Dan? No, it's not going to happen. Oh no.
No, I mean, you won't even have to work at it. It'll just disappear after a while. It's a question if you even want to. It's a question if you even want to watch them anymore.
Oh no, because one of my 10x goals was to play for Man United.
So the big thing is you get really simple, and then it's really relationships, you know, just what the relationships are as you go along. So I'm surrounded with people who are into quantum computing. You know, they're bringing out all sorts of new. We have a 28-year-old in our program who's at our highest level, and he's coaching our entire company on artificial intelligence. Okay, and we have 130, and everybody's going to learn how to use artificial intelligence to, you know, the new apps like the Chat GPT and
absolutely.
everything else.
Give him a shout out. Who is this gentleman? Give him a shout out.
His name's Evan. He's terrific. He's terrific. His name's Evan Ryan.
Evan Ryan.
I'll give you his contact information. He'd be a phenomenal for a podcast.
Well, let's do that
for you. And he operates all over the world. He travels. He's got a virtual company that does all the work. And he's 28 years old, and I'm 51 years older than he is right now. And he's as much an entrepreneur as I am, you know. And you know, so the other thing is talent comes in every shape, size, color. You know, you just look for the talent, you know, and then you give them really great purpose for their talent, you know. So just as we're sitting here, what have you picked up already, you know, that changes some of your thinking from 48 to 58?
Well, to be fair, I've been immersed in your material, your books for years now. I've listened to yourself and your co-author, Benjamin Hardy. Actually, I
want to put see, I did not write any of those 3 books. You know how we did that?
Yeah, I love the concept of it all originated from Who Not How.
Well, and all the money goes to him for the books. I don't make my money on books. I get clients out of books, you know. So I would say, all things in, those first 3 books over the last 4 years, they've sold about 500,000.
Congratulations.
And that's just the printed version. There's another 500,000 audibles, because a lot of people just listen, they don't read. And the phones in Coach are ringing up. Hey, I just read this book. Can you tell me more about the program? So it doesn't sign people up. It just makes them a great lead. See, your podcast, I bet your podcast is already bringing in leads, because you don't know where podcasts go. There's, you know.
Yeah, look, and it's the wonderful medium of podcasting. The podcast now reaching more than 100 countries globally. And, you know, in terms of my own 10X goals, you know, I look at my goals around, well, first of all, leading self in terms of my physical fitness, my emotional fitness, the quality of the relationships I have with my wife, my kids, and the wonderful people who work within our own business, Simple Scaling now, and then my sense of purpose, you know. So I want to amplify all of those. Yeah. Essentially, I'm 48 now, and what's really important to me at 58 is that I'm feeling as healthy and well and more energized than I am at 48. So, you know, every day I've built I've built habits into what I do to ensure that's the case. I engage with coaches, a senior nutritionist who has background in pharmacy. We
And
grow our
we're
own
in a breakout
vegetables.
period with all things fitness and health right now. This is
Yeah,
just the greatest
it
period of. I'm going to Buenos Aires in November. I have a torn cartilage, 1975, and didn't really bother me. You know that it was taken out. The middle of it was taken out because they did that in those days. They wouldn't. They wouldn't be doing that this day. But he has stem cell therapies, which will regrow my original cartilage.
just incredible. I heard
It comes
your
from my fat cells and my white blood cells, and
yeah.
he's got a means to turn my cells into another kind of cell. And that's, I'm pretty deep into this because you get more interested in this subject as you get older.
I can
Uh,
imagine, and what I want to come to in that, you mean we mentioned the wonderful Charlie Tremendous Jones earlier, and the importance of surrounding yourself with great people. I know, I mean, you have an incredible network. I first heard about the stem cell therapy from Tony Robbins and how
yeah.
it's healed his shoulder. I know you're good friends. You know, if you were to list your the five people who are doing abnormal things that are making what you do seem normal, which is a goal of creating $15 trillion of value in the world. Who are those five people, Dan?
Yeah, well, I'm going to give you two sets. One of them are no longer alive. Okay, the first set, they're no more, and one of them is Euclid, the person who put together basic mathematics 300 years BC, Greek, and he created all the mathematical principles that basically created the physical world. The next one is Shakespeare. I think Shakespeare is the greatest thinker on human nature that ever walked, the greatest gift with language of any person. And what he created is very interesting. He created the whole concept of personality, because if you read all of Shakespeare's books, the personalities of the characters are bigger than the plays. Okay, I mean, you think of Macbeth, you think of Iago, you think of Hamlet, you think of Falstaff, and everything. And Shakespeare could just make imaginary human beings be bigger than normal. The next one's Johann Sebastian Bach, who I think is the greatest. I think he just talked to God every day and wrote down the musical notes, I mean, and just the most incredible musician. And then James Madison, who wrote the US Constitution, greatest operating system for a country of ADD entrepreneurs in history. And then Thomas Edison, I grew up 2 miles from Thomas Edison's birthplace. And Thomas Edison was an inventor, but he created the modern research lab. He created the modern way that you get technology into the marketplace with marketing, with stocks and everything. And I just look at them because they created things that last forever. And so with all my tools, I have a test with my tool. I said, if this tool I applied 100 years ago with entrepreneurs 100 years ago, would it be just as useful 100 years ago? And I said, yeah. And if I took it into the future 100 years, would it still be useful for entrepreneurs 100 years from now? I said, yeah, it would. And that's my litmus test. It's timeless. So I look for timeless thinking tools. We mentioned unique ability as a time. I mean, when is unique ability not going to be important?
I'm gonna come to that, but I'm gonna push you then on because I would like you to list if there was only three
now I
thinking
can come
tools
up.
out of the 250. But let's go to the five who are
Yeah.
influencing you now.
Actually, and they're not really entrepreneurs that I'm looking at here so far. And it's very, very interesting. And I'd had more or less the set number, but I'm going to, one that I'm going to introduce here, and I just became aware of him within the last 6 months. And it's the basketball player from Serbia, Nikola Jokic. And he was the most valuable player, and he is just the most amazing athlete I've ever seen. and they won the National Basketball Association. He's 6'11". He weighs around 280 pounds. He's very agile, and he's got two rules: either I'm scoring or one of my team members is scoring. Okay, and he's the greatest passer. He's the greatest defender I've ever seen. And they asked him, "What's the biggest thrill when he won the championship?" He says, "Tomorrow I get to go back to Serbia and work with my horses." Yeah, and he's
A
just this
humble
really
guy.
cool customer, and he's taken over. The United States thought that they owned basketball, and this guy from Serbia, and and then they said, "Well, you're the most amazing player to ever come out of Serbia." He said, "I'm not." He says, I'm just the one they let come over. There's a lot better basketball players than I." And it's mostly mindset that I'm looking for in people. That's what I mindset. And strangely enough, this is going to be very controversial. I think Trump is a total one of a kind character. Whoever, and I know I just touched the third rail of the subway with this. But what he did is he was never a politician. When he became president, this is the first time he was a politician. But what he realized is that in the 21st century, uh, politics is an entertainment for him. Okay. And what he's done, and he owned Worldwide Wrestling. He was half owner of Worldwide Wrestling. And all he's done is taken Worldwide Wrestling and applied it to politics. There's a villain and there's the good guy. So I'm the good guy and everybody else is the villain. And then he just insults them from morning till night. And no matter what the other politicians are trying to do to get noticed, it's just Trump, 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 Trump.
But if,
No, no,
if
and do I ever want to have dinner with him? No. Do I want to do I want to work with him? I just admire how he's taken something from another realm and imposed it on a new realm, and they can't figure out what he's doing. Nobody can figure out what he's doing. He just got indicted 3 times in the last 6 months, and every time he gets indicted, his popularity goes up by 10 points. He says, "If I get indicted a fourth time, I'm the next president." So it's sort of an attitude here that I'm looking, and I'm not going to get into an argument with anybody on political grounds or whether I think he's a good human being. I just admire his approach to an entirely new realm.
Yeah, so I suppose what we're saying here with Nikola Jokic, the there's a mindset there of humility and service in the context of the way he thinks about his other team members. In the context of Trump, and that will trigger people one way or the other.
Yeah.
There's a divisive nature to what he's doing, but ultimately what we're saying here from a leadership perspective, his attitude, he's absolutely convicted about his
Yeah.
opinions
Yeah.
and strong belief, and he's able to innovate and be creative by looking at
Yeah,
other
he's
industries
creating
and
a whole
apply them
new
to his own
form. He's
industry.
creating a whole new form. I think Jokic is totally transforming the game of basketball. Okay, and he's this big white guy from Serbia, who likes working with his horses, and
Brilliant.
everything. But I just love that somebody who is so bet on themselves that they can just introduce new ways of doing things, and I aspire to that in coaching. I've aspired to that, and so I look for it. And then there's um, there's just a lot of other people. I like Elon Musk. I like Elon Musk, and the reason is that he's got the highest rated stock. I mean, yeah, but he's the stock. Because Tesla, I mean, my wife has a Tesla and she loves it because she really likes to accelerate. And EVs, his EV really accelerates really fast. But for me, car is something with 4 wheels that gets you from here to here. I couldn't care less about cars, but she loves it. But I love his. He'll doubt some. He'll take on a new enterprise, and people will say, now he's going to fail. Now he's going to fail, and he's always 2 steps ahead of everybody else. He's got a game and his big thing is he wants to walk on Mars, and all this is just to make the money and he created the spaceship. I mean, he's revolutionized the space industry. He can get 20 launches out of the same launcher, and all the money in rockets out of the atmosphere is the just getting it through the first 40, bring it back 19 times and do 20 launches at the same price,
So,
you
what
know.
characterizes Elon Musk in terms of entrepreneurial attributes, the ability to craft a powerful vision, being incredibly purposeful in terms of giving his vision energy and others around him? What else would you say would, if we're looking for attributes and
Well, I think, Peter Diamandis, who is my collaborator on Abundance 360, and the book Light Force that Tony Robbins, well, Peter and Bob Harari wrote that book,
I've
and
both read both books, both Peter's and Tony's latest one, Life Force. And yeah.
yeah, and I know Tony to say hello, but Peter I've worked with nonstop for the last 11 years. And, we created the framework called Abundance 360 because he had all this knowledge, but he didn't have a forum. So we did a deal that he will send our customers to his program. He gets all the money. And that's the other thing, is that I know how to make money, so I don't need other people's money. Okay, so I'm willing, like Ben Hardy gets all the money from the books we did. Okay, and he was in his 30s, and this is a great opportunity. So Hay House, which is a great publisher, they're our publisher, they couldn't figure out, because I'm actually the author, but he's the writer, and all the money goes to the writer. It doesn't come to me, because we know how to make our money, so I don't need any other form of money. Okay, and that keeps me real simple. It keeps me real
It's
simple. But you're going back to Elon Musk. He's a first principle guy. He'll take anything that other people are doing. He says, yeah, but what are the first principles that are here? And he said, well, all the cost is in the launch. So if we can reduce the cost by 95%, I think we got ourselves a new industry. You know,
Yeah, I love that
Trump,
insight.
it's all politics is entertainment. And we like the best entertainment is where you have the good guy and everybody else is a villain. It's first principles. It's first principles, you know. So I just like people who go right to the center of any activity and they say, well, everybody thinks 15 things are important, but actually only 2 things are important.
I love this, and I'm conscious of time. I want to be respectful of your time, Dan. The entertainment, all business is entertainment. That was really brought to light for me very starkly when I took a delegation of CEOs to Japan back in February, and the Shinkansen, which is the fastest train in Japan, maybe in the world, is just incredible. We rode the Shinkansen, but the challenge for the operators of the Shinkansen was actually the speed of transition between passengers getting off and new passengers getting on. They want to bring that down to 7 minutes, but they found that those people who were required to clean the train for the new passengers coming on were incredibly demotivated, felt a lack of purpose, and really couldn't buy into this, and so they weren't engaged in the process of cleaning the train. And they realized in their wisdom that actually there's hundreds and hundreds of people waiting to get onto this train. There are, a small number of people who are required to clean it. Let's make those cleaners the stars, because they're being watched by hundreds and hundreds of people, and turn this process,
Into
7 minute
entertainment.
turn, into entertainment. And the
Yeah.
point being that all business is entertainment. When
Yeah.
you engage with a customer, a potential
It's
client.
play. It's play. And I think entrepreneurs, just to go back to an early part of our podcast, was that I noticed in entrepreneurial lives, they did a lot more playing as a kid. And they made up games, and they didn't need sophisticated Mattel toys to play games. They used sticks and stones and boxes to create their own game. And I think that it's the capturing of staking out, I want to have a life of play, But then you go into the real world and you got to make money and you got to do everything else. But they bring that sense of play. And I find entrepreneurs go negative when they forgot that this is supposed to be play, it's supposed to be entertaining.
Well, you have certainly played over the last the last 40, 50 years of being an incredible entrepreneur and coach to thousands and thousands of other entrepreneurs globally. You've referenced a number of times the tools, and you want to make those timeless. You have 250 tools. I want to push you, and this is like asking you to choose your favorite child, but I want to push you. If there was three tools that are going to move the needle, if I was only to focus on three over the next 10 years, what would those three tools be?
Well, it would get the go through the process of understanding the unique ability, because that's the cornerstone of everything, because everything dictates your unique ability. Uh, and to know just what the unique value you are to your company, that nobody else can possibly replace that unique value. Okay. And I've got skills like you. I mean, I've had training, I've had other skills, and but so funny, Evan Ryan that I was talking to you about, he said, Dan, I noticed you're not in my classes. And I says, I've got two rules, Evan. Any new technology, I always keep a smart human between me and the technology. That's rule number one. Rule number two is I always keep the technology between me and stupid people. No, and I said, you're the smart person, Evan. I'm letting you loose on my company. Now, bring the productivity level up of each of my 130 team members by 20% a year. That's all I need to know about the technology.
I love that. I'm not sure. There's technology between you and I here, Dan. So I'm not sure what
This
that
is a
says
good
about
technology.
me.
This is a good tech.
Yeah.
No, I mean, no, I could see the value of Zoom from, that it had me at hello, you
Yeah.
know, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I like to see, I'm not good with phone calls because I can't see the other person, and Zoom has done such an enormously good job. You feel like you're there, I feel, is that real behind you, by the way?
It is. It is. Yeah. So it was always my vision whenever I exited the last business to create an office environment at the bottom of the garden that overlooked a pond. You're getting the
Oh,
benefit of the
it's good.
vision overlooking the pond. So
Yeah.
that was something that I'd wanted to create for years. So unique ability, understanding your unique ability. What are the other two?
The other one is a tool called the impact filter. Okay, and the impact filter is everything in life becomes a project that's delegatable to other people. Okay, and so it takes about a half hour to fill it in on any project. And my whole life is a series of impact filters. Okay, so I don't go to meetings at all. I just send an impact filter to the people who are involved in the project, and we have a short get together, but it's simply about the project. So I don't like meetings, because meetings, I have things I want to do, and they can't talk to me unless they send me an input. So people will say, Dan, I'm working on something. And I wonder if I can get 15 minutes of your time. I said, why don't you do an impact filter first and send it to me? Therefore, I'll be totally prepared when you come to the meeting.
And I
But
can
when you're doing the
testify to
impact
this.
filter, when they do the impact filter, they find they don't need the meeting. They understand what it is. So,
Well, I can testify your team that you've them they're wonderful, and the engagement with your team has been wonderful throughout. But prior to getting you engaged to come onto the podcast, I had to complete the impact filter. So brilliant. So you're
yeah,
definitely walking the talk. So the third tool.
I think the third one is the time system, the free days, focus days, and buffer days. And, and people have work days down pat. I mean, they've been single-minded, but they're not getting more productive in there if they're not getting the other 2 days, the free days, and also the backstage days. And a backstage day is when you're not holding yourself responsible for making money in that day. I just have 35 a year out of 365 buffer days. And all I do is I'm away a lot because of free days, and I do some traveling. And I come back in, and I'll just spend a whole day walking around talking to people, what's going on, how you feeling about it, and everything like that. And then we can introduce like dealing with Evan to get his program in, and Joe Polish is my greatest friend in the
Who we've
program.
had on the show.
So I, whatever Joe said about me, I'd say the same thing back to him. He's just a marvelous friend. And so, but I would say the three is get your unique ability down pat, master the impact filter, and free focus and buffer days. And those three will introduce you to 30 more tools. There's 30 more because it's slicing and dicing. There's, you get to be a real sushi chef, an entrepreneurial sushi chef. You really start dicing, and you can create hundreds and hundreds of different recipes if you get those three. So that's where I would start off. And the philosophy that goes along with that, whenever you set a goal and the question asked comes to you, how am I going to do that? You remember, it's not how are you going to do it, who is going to do it for you? And, there's a lot of different thinking tools. But my greatest enjoyment is just see people grasp what their unique ability is, focus their unique ability, and then learn how to do teamwork with other people's unique ability, and you get a scalable company out of that.
Dan, we're almost coming up on a couple of hours. This has absolutely flown. I have been so excited to have you on the show today. I have never had a 79-year-old on the podcast. Well, first of all, that looks like he's 39. So you're definitely walking your talk, and whatever you're doing, we'll speak off air because I want the recipe. And I sense that you've already shared the recipe with us all in terms of using these tools, living to your unique ability, leaning into your vision. Be purposeful in all of that, and really developing a mindset which is a 10x mindset. You referenced your great nephews and nieces earlier. There's a question I posed to all of our guests who come onto the show, and I want you just to envision that you've come to your 156th year, and you have 3 minutes now to impart wisdom to those great grand nephews and nieces. Can you share with them 3 timeless takeaways?
Yeah, well, I don't think it would. I mean, I may create all sorts of new tools that replace the ones that are emerge as more important than the ones I have. But it's to take ownership of yourself and your life, because the vast majority of people lead lives where they're owned by other people. Okay, and that doesn't mean you're going to become an entrepreneur. It simply means that. But you have to own more and more of your time. You have to own more and more of your money. You have to own more and more of your relationship. And by own, I mean, it's not being imposed on you. You're choosing it, and life has really changed since the 1940s. I mean, the amount of choice. As a matter of fact, I think the biggest problem with most people mentally these days and emotionally, there's just too much choice. Okay, I mean, think of somebody growing up in the 1940s in Belfast and what their future was. I went to Outward Bound in Scotland. Do you know the Outward Bound program?
No, I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah, it was created by Prince Philip in the 1940s, and mostly corporations send their people with potential management training programs, or the legal system in the UK would send them. You either go off and do this course, or we put you in a different kind of school. And so I did it in 1964. It was November and December. It's bracing in Scotland in
It is
November. And we spent it was 30 days, and we spent 15 of them in the mountains, Cairngorms, Strathairs, and then we spent 15 days on the Firth of Moray in the North Sea, sailing. And but I was the only non-Brit. I mean, there were Irish, but the Irish would have come from Belfast, from Ulster, and one guy from Malta, and but they were all Commonwealth people. And I was just struck because they said, "Well, who sent you?" And I said, "I sent myself. I read an article 10 years ago about Outward Bound." I said, someday in the future I'm going to do it. And so I was in the marketplace. I had a job. I was going to night school. And I said, I'm just going to take off 6 months. And they said, "Well, how'd you take off 6 months?" I said, "Well, I quit my job. I dropped out of school." And they say, "Well, now what? You've cut yourself off." And I said, "No, I'll just go back and I'll get another job." And they said, "Well, how will you get back into university?" I said, "I'll write them a check." And, and I was really struck by how constrained their lives were compared to and I was just a normal American, I wasn't doing that. So the big thing is that's an advantage, but there's a lot of Americans who just waste the opportunity. I mean, Belfast may be, Belfast may have its troubles, I will tell you, but it's better than Ukraine.
Yeah, we'll get you over in the very near future because the city has just transformed through
Oh, yeah.
great leadership and through a great vision. Going back 30 years ago, and thankfully, it's a very different city that my
Oh,
kids
yeah.
are in a very different place. Northern Ireland's a very different place that my
You
kids
still
are
have to
growing up in.
watch what streets you're walking on.
Yeah, there's a little bit of
A little
that,
bit of that, yeah.
but certainly my kids are growing up in a very different Northern Ireland. We still lack the leadership that we need and that we
Yeah.
crave, but that void's been filled by the wonderful entrepreneurs and the resilience
Yeah.
within the entrepreneurial community throughout Northern Ireland. So ownership is one. Give me another
Yeah,
two.
the big thing, own your life. And then the other thing is that your success is figuring out what other people are striving for and help them do it.
I love that.
And the third thing, as you become more successful, look like you're having a good time.
Look like you're having a good time or have a good time.
Yeah, I mean, better you're having a good time, but at least look like, yeah, don't be an embarrassment to success.
Oh, Dan.
Don't give success a bad name.
Dan, I have absolutely loved the last couple of hours. I just the energy from you is palpable. The wisdom is just incredible. I want to thank you personally for how you've selflessly served the business community for the last 50 years.
Half century, yeah.
Yeah, and have an ambition to do that for the next 80 years. It's really wonderful. So, what's next for you then in the context of 10x? What are your plans? What are your
Well,
goals?
it's quarter by quarter, so every quarter. I mean, the big thing right now is that we're getting enough success stories coming in. Because I have 30 clients who are more than 30 years in the program. We have 70 that are more than 25 years in the quarter, and we're starting now to get some really, really great law and study test cases of what happens to an entrepreneur, what happens to their personal life, what happens to their enjoyment of life, that we can really start now using them as marketing tools, really, to get out. Because I've been with entrepreneurs for so long, I really don't know anyone who isn't connected to an entrepreneur. But my feeling is that it's in the 21st century, it's an entrepreneurial century. So this is available because of technology. This is available. You can be a global entrepreneur and never leave the room that's sitting in front of your garden these days.
Yeah.
But you have to own your future. You have to own who you are, and you have to And the whole point, it's not about you, it's about the other person and what they're striving for. So you become the guide and the checkoff point for them to make progress, and so the more you're paying attention to what other people want and you're providing it, the less you have to worry about yourself.
Here, here. We always say, be the star maker, not the star. And you've been a star maker for 50 years and continue to make and coach
Hmm.
wonderful stars. So, Dan, for anyone who wants to reach you, and I suspect there's no one who doesn't know Dan Sullivan who's listening, but for anyone who wants to reach you, connect further, learn more about your wonderful work, where best to connect.
Yeah, I think the big thing is, we just have a global, site, and it's www.strategiccoach.com, and it's just strategic coach as a single word with two C's in the middle, and ask for a discovery call. Okay. And what we do is we actually have an entrepreneur actually go through, and and you have to qualify. I mean, we check you out in terms of your income level and everything else, but then they just take you through and they give you a 3-year game plan. They'll actually take you through and do a game plan with you of just what you're up to. And then they'll talk about how we can be helpful to that game plan that you come out with the discovery call. There's no obligation. People, we only want people who want to be here. We're not trying to sell anybody to something, but what we are trying to do is to sell them on their future.
So profound.
So WW Strategic Coach. We do the workshops in London, so we do them right in Mayfair in London, and we're in Canada, but we also have a Zoom component where you can do the entire program on Zoom. It's funny. Over since 1989, we up until COVID, we had 33 Australians in the program, and that's a long haul. I'll tell you, it's a 5-day turnaround if they come to London, if they come to Los Angeles, if they come to Chicago or Toronto. It's a long haul, so they're spending 20 days of the year to do it. But since COVID came in and we went to Zoom, we've had more Australians in the last 3 years than we had before that. And, periodically they say, I'd like to actually go and be in a workshop, but they don't have to. The program can be done
Yeah.
entirely by. I have people in Vietnam, I have people in Taiwan, I have people in New Zealand, Africa, South America, and so it's been a great gift, actually, the Zoom, and they haven't screwed it up. They
Well,
haven't screwed it.
I'm gonna give a shout out to one of those wonderful Australians, gentleman by the name of Morris Patain. Morris
Oh,
is a
Morris. Oh, I love Morris.
yeah,
From
likewise.
Melbourne. He's from Melbourne.
Absolutely, just a wonderful human, a wonderful advocate for everything that you're doing. I first connected with Morris as a result of an interview that you guys had with Morris, and I reached out, and we have we connect. We've never met in person. We're planning to do that, but we connect every month. He's such a wonderful guy.
Mhm.
So a huge shout out to Morris. Dan, I wish you every success over the next 7 decades.
Mhm.
And my only aspiration at this stage is that I would be happy just to check out 1 decade before you. So so the this has been an
Well, the
incredible.
problem starts being pallbearers. You're outliving all your pallbearers.
Of course, but you've got to find more Evans. Then you've got to fill
I
your
gotta
life
get,
with the
I gotta get
Evans.
the, yeah, I'm starting to get the 50 years younger.
Absolutely, fill your life with the Evans. I feel I'm gonna have to go down. I'm gonna have to go to the room and lie down for an hour, really, to digest the last couple of hours. There's been so much value in that. I want to thank you once again,
Yeah.
Dan.
I will say this, the way I approached the podcast is that I was actually giving you a workshop for the last, so what you experience over that is actually what the workshops feel like.
Well, thank you for that. I've got to go and digest all of this now. So
Okay.
it's a podcast that I will have to listen to time and time again. So Dan, once again, thanks so much. Take
Appreciate
care.
the opportunity very much. And we heard great things about you, and they proved to be true.